So any of my normal subscribers who are watching wonder why this turbo went bad, I figured it out. It was actually a good turbo before it started, and what happened is this engine, real quick, we're going to go over we're going to do a whole video on how to remove this in a minute, but what inside this hole was a pill bug. So apparently this thing this engine I got used, as I checked the turbo before, I just kind of wiggled the shaft and it felt good. That's why it kind of freaked me out when it went bad. At least I know why now. So some pill bug, because this part was missing when I bought the engine, and I just didn't, for some reason, I just didn't think about pulling off that line and cleaning it. But this part was missing, the oil filter housing, and apparently a group of pill bugs climbed up inside this tube and decided to live there between when the car that I got the engine out of. So that's why I was like, why is there so many parts that are bad on this engine? I'm just freaking out on why it was. And I checked the turbo before. It seemed to be okay, spun freely. That is what happened, because when I was taking it apart, I was kind of freaked out why there was not very much oil in the turbo. I thought maybe the engine supply was bad, but it actually plugged up because the pill bug got stuck right here where the orifice gets really small. And I just pulled him out right there, I think, where he was. Dropped him on the ground. He was stuck in there. Right there. Plugged up my whole oil system. Got no oil to the turbo. Wiped out the brand new one. Bad luck is what that is. Man, who'd ever thought? So that's what that was. I'll let you guys watch the rest of the video and learn how I did this. Took this out. Maybe it'll help you get yours out. All right, guys, let's take one of these off. The turbo off the car. We're gonna get one off of this Jetta real quick. I did take this one off of another engine that I had, just so we can look at it real quick first. But here's basically what you need to do. Sorry about the dogs, I can't control them. There's dogs around over there. All right, it's not my dogs, somebody else's. So anyway, the battery's got to come out. The air filter has to come out. I've already got those out. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this, and we're going to take the battery tray out, and then a lot of the stuff on the top of the engine. A lot of the stuff on the top of the engine is going to have to come off, and to get access to the turbo. It is kind of tough to do on this car. And another thing you want to do, first of all, is take off, again, the top piece. I'll show you what it is. This piece here, once you take the rubber off, that's around here, there's normally a piece of rubber here. It comes right off, okay? You just have to kind of pull on a little bit. It'll be kind of stuck on there where this part goes underneath the windshield. You just kind of give it a swift yank, pull that out. And to get this section out that's right here, you have one bolt here and one again here. I'm sorry, I can't do anything about the dogs. Like I said, they are not my dogs, so there's just stuff going on, and I need to make this video now because I have to do this job. So, unfortunately, you're going to have to tolerate that if you want to learn how to do this. So, go ahead and take the battery out of here, the battery tray. There's just two, you have your connectors here. There's 3 bolts to hold the battery tray in. Use one of these. Take off this one bolt. It'll take me a second, I'll get it out. It has a little O-ring on it. Torx head 30, something like that. 25. Now this part, you just grab it, twist it, goes that way, comes out then unhook the wires. Little trick for these, I'll show you. So there's a couple different things you can do. You can shove your screwdriver underneath here, or you can take your screwdriver, put it underneath like this, pry it just a little bit, and then push it off. You can see that. You take your screwdriver right here, kind of use that, pushes that lever down. I tried doing it with my thumb, so I'm going to do that and it just wore my hands out. That's how you get them off. Then we're going to take off the heat riser pipe. There we go. There's one here on the top too, one in the back. Take off some of these silver things, kind of try to remember where they go. This may not be where they really were. And try and put them back on the same places where you took them off, because they are there for a reason. And then we need to take loose the oil line to the turbo. A lot of room back there. Hopefully yours does not come off like this one. Sometimes it gets frozen on here, and trying to put a wrench on there, like I got to put this one in the vise and then try and loosen that. So this one I had to take the whole line off at once. And if you have that problem, you might want to just buy a new line, because you have to take off half the damn engine. Well, anyway, you're going to be screwed. But you got to take off these two clamps. In fact, you're going to have to take off one of these clamps to get it out of there anyway. But anyway, there's a 17 millimeter up here in the top. Like I said, it's a tight area. Might only be one way to get the wrench in here, I don't know. Well, I think I'll get it off and bring you guys back in, because it's going to be, I might need a crow's foot. I've done it before. I said it is tight. Feels like it might be the whole thing coming out, which again is not very good news. Okay, that's got to come off. All right, wastegate tube's got to come off. There's a 10 millimeter behind here for the oil line. It's got to come off. Here's a wiring bracket here. This is when your 1/4" drive set comes in handy. Which I need a shorty socket. This weather gives me such terrible allergies, so dry. Better than burning my butt off right now. Alright, so this one's a tough one to reach. Behind here, might be easier to get from underneath. Oh, no, probably not. Nothing's easy. It's got the Volkswagen word on the VW emblem on the hood. It's a pain in the ass. Well, that one's going to take me some time. Okay, so I'll get that off. Get a couple more things off and we'll take a look. So the down clamp goes off. I just take this whole thing all the way out. Take the bolt all the way out. Thought it was already out. That one all the way out. But you can kind of hook it out. You can unhook it. Slide the camp off. Which this is fun to put back on. You'll love it. I've already had this out before. I haven't had the turbo off, but I had the engine out of it. So same thing you got to do. Clamp's got to come out. All right, so let's kind of summarize what we've done. got this removed. Took a little while to do. Got this bracket loose here for the wiring harness. Again, it has to get disconnected from underneath still. I've got the oil line loose, just hanging here. This clamp on the oil line down here, I have to still get off. I'm going to get that off so that you can kind of move it out of the way. Then a lot of stuff's done from underneath. I think actually this thing's got to come off too. I think this one. There's 3 bolts, 3 Torx heads right here. One's kind of underneath where the wires are, I think, on that side. Those 3 have to come off. And then this little flange just comes off. That's, I think, the Egr tube. It goes up to the air. It goes up to the where the Egr exhaust gas gets recirculated back into the intake. The turbo is loose. I checked it inside. Yeah. It came apart. Looks like to me. Oh yeah, the screw came off the end of it. It's actually the screw. And then the turbo fan came off. Weird. That's a weird one. Interesting. It's weird because this engine actually ran. It was in the car, supposedly. Who knows? We'll hang on to that. All right, so mounted right here. They're actually mounted on this thing here normally. These are already removed. There's 4 different plugs. 1, 2, 3, 4 that I'm aware of, and I believe you have to take all of them off. Like I said, I've never done the actual turbo on the car, but I've had the engine out, so I think the similar thing here. We're going to go ahead and remove all 4 of those. So get those off of there. Again, so these all should go to different modules down there. Connected to the exhaust is one of the things you need to take off. So we'll go into there and we're going to get on that. So this, whatever it is, particulate filter needs to come off. So this little bracket right here, there's 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those come off. Take off this one, this clamp, and then get that whole thing to come loose. Right up here, this little clamp comes loose, and then there's 2 bolts, and that whole little hose comes out. You can see way up in there. Let me see if we can get you up a little closer. That bolt and that one, those come off, and then this tube comes out. So we're going to work on that. All right, so what I'm going to do for ease of access is I'm going to take loose this ball joint, take this nut, this big bolt off of here, and then I'm going to actually, and then there's 6 bolts right here around the axle. It's going to take that out of the way. Should just make it a whole lot easier to get your hands in there. It might not be necessary, but I would just do it because it's easier. It all depends on you. If you want to fight it out, and there's really tight quarters in here, it's a lot easier just to have that axle out of the way. On these, what I do is I take the nut as loose as I can get it to where there's only a couple threads on it, and I'll hit it right here with a hammer. I can get enough force with this little hammer. Yeah, I did it. And that takes the ball joint loose. Sometimes guys will use a pickle fork and they'll jack up the boot. That's how to not do that. They sell a set of these on Amazon pretty cheap. If you don't have a set, you might want to pick one up. Got a couple options here. You can disconnect this and just leave it on the, disconnect this line right here and leave it on, leave the, I think this is a map sensor, I'm not sure. Leave that on there and disconnect this plug right here and let it all come down together. Or, you know, you can disconnect both of these, this hose here. I'm just going to disconnect and unplug this real quick. Also the same thing here. This thing's all connected. You can do it either way. You can disconnect this, take the thing off, let the whole bracket go down with it. That's what I'm going to do. So if you look up in here, there's one more wire that needs to be disconnected. It goes down, from what I can tell, and I think I've had it, I didn't have it all the way out, but it goes all the way along here and it connects right there. So, you know, I guess you could loosen up the floor piece here, cover, and then drop it down a little bit, get your hands in there and take that out, or you could kind of work around it. So it's up to you on that part. Again, this is, the exhaust is loose. All it needs to do is come, it'd be nice to get it out of there. And I think I'm going to try and disconnect that thing and just get the whole exhaust out, because it's just right in your way. Because you got to get this off, and they're pretty tight. And that's oil inside there. That's your oil return. So that's got to come off. And then there's another piece above it. It has a stud on the end of it right there. If I can get the camera up in there. You can probably see it right there. Not in focus, but let me see if I can get it in focus. No, it ain't gonna do it. Anyway, right there, up in there, that's the other end of it. And then that comes off, and I think there's two of those 12 points going up, holding that on as well. So you got to get that out of there. But I'm going to get the exhaust all the way out. So I'm going to take this wire off here, and there's a bunch of clips holding it on. So you can see right here, there's a little clip there. And just kind of grab on the side of it like that. And then there's another one right in here somewhere. I think maybe I'll just loosen this up. I think this just loosens right here, and this comes off, and then I'll drop that plastic piece down, and you can get in there a little bit easier. All right, this is how this thing's coming out here. You had to turn it, it was facing this way, and you had to turn it all the way around, upside down, backwards. And then I loosened up 4 bolts with, or 6 bolts with some frame. 1, 2, 3, and 3 more just like them on the other side. 1, 2, I didn't take them out, I just loosened them. 3, left them in place. The frame just kind of drops down about 1/4 of an inch or so. Then it makes it so you can get out of here, and this is this line here. I still haven't disconnected it over here, but I did access it. So you can see that's kind of difficult. They put it on the, they made the unplugged side on this side accessible, and the unplugged side on this side is not. So you have to get it out of that little bracket. I can't see right now, so we're going to come back in the daylight tomorrow and take this thing out. So I'm going to take this whole thing all the way out. Like I said, you could probably fight it around and leave it in place, but I'm going to tell you, you're in for a mountain of work if you want to do it that way. This has to come off, and again, take off these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're Torx, I think 40s. I'm not sure. I think 40 was what I found on the other engine I took it out of. Again, I got this pipe off, and then this is your Egr Cooler, I think it's called. And what it does is it just, once this pipe's out of the way here, this kind of just drops back, and you just leave it there. You shouldn't have to take it all the way out. It might just kind of go away and then come down, so you can get this shield off above it. You can't get that shield off, and you can't get the exhaust manifold off until you have that off of there. So you have to get this out. This has to come out of there. So we'll get on that a little bit tomorrow. I'll talk to you guys a little bit later. All right, so now that that's out of there, I'm going to remove, there's a little, one of these little shields on this thing. Move that, and then this thing's here. Get that unplugged, because I got to take this thing here loose and move that wire out of the way. Got to undo that little zip tie, because you got to get this hose. There's 2 of those 12-point things right here. It's a little bit of a fish in there, so that wire's got to come off. So I think it's a T40 if I remember right. It's a little bit, it's a Torx up in there. So I use a 1/4 inch drive set. I don't think you can reach it without a 1/4" drive ratchet. So just so you know, I don't think you can get it up in there. It's real tight. And take those two guys out. And now it's going to be really fun to put it back in. Yeah, 1/4" drive. And it's tight. Take both those bolts out and then that little tube will be loose. It's the oil return hose. So if you can see, I got those two out. And you can see one of them right there in the middle, right there. And so this needs to come off this little, I think it's a 16, I'm not sure. And then this one here is, I think a 24 or 28, I can't remember. Take that one off, and it's tight too. That's why you really, the muffler having that thing off of here, or the particulate filter, 27. That's a pretty much a must deal. It's much easier. Once you get that out, everything's like right there. All right, so the next thing to come off is 1, 2, there's another one up here you can't see, but it's there, and there's one in the middle of this mess. 4 bolts, and this is the Egr Heater, I believe it's called, and there's nothing connected to the engine block. It's just separate, so you don't need to take loose the coolant lines or any of that. You can just leave them on there and kind of move it back. Let's see if it works that way. I think I can do it without having to take it all the way out, because you don't want to empty the coolant out and all that other stuff unless you have to. All right, so now that this thing's kind of dangling here, you take off that one, and that'll free it up. It'll come off of there, and it'll kind of come out of the way. And then there's another one right here, just like this one, but it's right over here. I think they're 12 millimeter. Take them off, and then that little shield has to come off so you can get to all the bolts. So we're almost done, guys, so hang in there. All right, I forgot, you got to take this off too. This little guy right here, it's a 17. Usually not too tight. That's all loose, and once that comes off, it'll back up a little bit and get it out of there more. Yeah, gotta get this thing out. That's what I was. It's a little bit tough to get out of there. On the ground, it'd be a little bit of a fight. But, I mean, some guys might remove the whole Egr Cooler. That's up to you. I mean, that would be probably a little bit easier, but you got coolant everywhere at that point. Who knows? Depends on how you want to do it. So now, as fun as it seems, we got to get those intake or exhaust manifold bolts off, and the turbo should slide out of there. A little tight to wiggle it out, but I think it'll come out through the top, I'm pretty sure. But I'll go ahead and get those off. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think 8 of them. I'm not sure. I'll just take them out one at a time myself, and I don't know. We'll see. I've taken them out on the ground, so we can look at it real quick. This might help you find out where they're located. Some of them, there's one in the hole here. You're looking at it this way, right from the bottom. There's one up in the hole here, right there, there, and then 2 up in the hole, I guess. Not too bad. It looks hard, but I mean, it is. Nothing's easy. It's a Volkswagen. So we'll get those off of there and get the turbo out. Take a look at it. All right, guys, one of the things I forgot to take off, of course, when you forget something, you realize that it's got to come off. This tube right here, this thing, there's 2 bolts, I think, that hold it on. One, they're not easy to reach. Nothing's easy. So one's down here, probably go underneath. I'm thinking I can get a long extension underneath here and go that way. If you guys can see that, I'm going to go underneath here and get it from this angle. It angles a little bit. And then I think there's another one on there too. Let's look at the other turbo. What we're taking off is this thing here. So there's two. There's one down here and there's one up there. Almost can't see them. And then once that comes off, then the rest of the EGR heat tube will come out, and then the EGR will actually swing away. That's why I was like, why is this thing not swinging away? Well, it's because I didn't take this off. So you gotta take it off so you can reach these last two bolts. You can't really get to them without that thing out of the way. So anyway, we'll get that off. So that's the piece you're trying to take out. I'll show you the tooling I used. I used double. I'll go over the tooling, some of the toolings at the end. I use a double. These are Wobbly Extensions. And I went underneath the master cylinder. I can get it with this earthquake electric ratchet. And really, I mean, they're like $100. It's worth it. One more thing I forgot, because it was already off on the other engine I took it off of, is down here you got your EGR pipe. It goes from right here all the way down and underneath. You may need to loosen these two, but I know that those two have to come off, and it has to be moved out because it's on studs. Of course they made it that way, right? On studs, so that it has to come out this way. And then there's, I think I got one more bolt holding the turbo in. I think this intake bolt is right here, is the last one. And actually I haven't taken off this 10mm yet for the oil line, because that has to be moved out of the way to get the turbo out. It'll be fun. So I'll get these two off down here. You can see them down in there. So you can see one of them. The other one's buried. And you may need to take off this whole pipe here. It might be easier. Yeah, it's a pain to take off. Well, I guess I'll take it off. At least take off the bottom bolt there and at least twist it out or something. It's hard to get in the cavity without taking the coolant hoses off. All right, we'll get on that. Take this guy off. You just put it in this position right here. How that is, it snaps into place like that, and it pulls right off. And then the clamp. Then take this one out so that it can be twisted around. It's like a T30, I think. So I got the clamp loose for this, so it's loose. You can kind of move it out of the way a little bit. Doesn't move that much unless you take out both clamps. But this thing's, I'm going to loosen this up. I've tried to get it, back it out. It won't come, so loosen this up a bit. Should be able to back it out then. Let's see if it works. All right, so your turbo or your EGR tube, I forgot there is one right there down in the hole. Got to get it from out here with an extension. It is a 12 point. I don't know if I can get away with loosening it. Probably gonna have to take it off. Be fun to get that one back in, huh? But it goes back in. I've had it out before. I've had the EGR tube off. I've had all this stuff apart, unfortunately. And I show you what I did real quick with the hoses. I just crimped them like that. They have a little clamp tool you can use too for doing this. Needle nose Vicryps works, and then you can get them out of the way and then get this tube out of the way. So it might be a good idea to do that. I did have a coolant leak right here. I'm gonna have to replace, this thing is leaking. So yeah, it started leaking after I did some work in here just randomly. I have an extra one, so that's cool. But yeah, that way you can get to this tube, get it pulled back, and get the last bolt out. And well, hopefully it's the last one. We'll see. I'm leaving a couple of threads in that thing because I know it's going to take me an hour to get it back in. So I'm just going to, on mine, you can do whatever you want to do, of course, on any of this stuff. I'm going to wedge something in here and pull that thing away. Get you guys back a little further. I'm going to pull you back. I'm going to pull this thing away. I'm going to wedge something in there and then take the turbo off. And when I put it back on, then I'll just stick it back in place. You know, just kind of shortcut having to remove that bolt, because that thing looks like it will be a nightmare to get back in the hole, and you may never get it back in, who knows. So we'll do that. Can do it like this here, you know. Just gotta wedge something in there. See, just need to wedge something in there and then see, find something that fits. I don't know what I'm gonna use, but I'll find something. Maybe that screwdriver. Yeah, that does it. Well, it's still kind of on there, but it's okay. It'll be a little bit hard getting the turbo in and out with that, but oh well. I think I'd rather deal with that than try to do the other. It's all up to you. Again, just little ideas that I'm throwing out there for you. Well, even without the mount, with that mount hooked up, I was able to bring it right down through the middle. Had to take it around the Egr cooler, and all this stuff is just really wiggling around on the ground. It'd be really hard to do. But here's what we got here. Turbo's out. Now I'm gonna head over to the rebuilder. Yeah, that's no good. Head over to the rebuilder shop and see if he can rebuild it. No, I'll have to buy a new one, I guess. Pretty expensive. But there's a rebuilder. I'll put it in the comments if it works out, if they can do it. Just so you know, if you do take it to a rebuilder, they can't rebuild every turbo. Sometimes the fans are damaged and they don't do it, and some people say you can do it yourself. Honestly, you know, as hard as this thing is to get in and out of there, I would not rebuild this turbo myself. Okay, they actually balance it, they check it, they do a lot more than just put bushings in at these places. This place that I'm going to go to, I was talking to them on the phone. They go, no, everything. They check the shaft, make sure the shaft is straight. They know where to get the parts, the good parts. There's a lot of parts out there, but none of them are good. So because it's so hard to put in, it's worth getting it done, doing it right. So if you can go to the rebuilder, like I said, they can't always rebuild them, but I'm bringing over 2 turbos, so one of them probably can be rebuilt. I'm guessing this one can, because it's not nearly as loose as the other one. I think the other one, the fan might be damaged, but then again, this one might be too, because there was that nut in there. And it's locked up now. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. If they can, if they can, if they can, if they can't, they can't. It's just the way it is. And, you know, like I said, it depends on whether they can get the proper parts for it. I did check. They said they do have some parts available for this model. And you can, again, take a picture of this label. Make sure it's a very clear picture. Let's see if I can even try that. Anyway, now it'll focus. That label right there. And, you know, send it to them by email. Make sure they can read it. And send it to them by email and see if they have parts for it. Again, you're still taking a chance. They may have the rebuild parts, but they may not have the shaft. They may not have the what do they call, the compressor fans. You know, they may not have all that. So it just all depends. You're just gonna have to just take it out, send it over to them, see if they do. And some places that have them, again, you know, there's like what's it called, Hans Auto Parts. He's one of the guys. He has supposed to have a turbo cartridge. I don't know about the quality of that. You know, there's a lot of parts that he has that are just junk. Okay, there's a lot of stuff they have that is okay. So yeah, it's one of those things. They call him Proth on the TDI club. Pete Rothenberger Engineering. He does have, I believe, a cartridge for these. I don't know how good it is. You know, that's why I go to a turbo people who work on them all the time, because if they, you know, they do it all the time, they know if they're getting stuff back that's no good, you know, they're not going to do it. So this place I'm going to does know that stuff. I'm going to go over there this week. We'll take a look at it and, you know, look in the description, see if the information's in there. Let's go over some of the tools we needed. This is not normally how I work. I usually have a rollaway box, but I have 2 ends in my shop, and you know, kind of in the transition area, So I've just kind of got everything laying on this bench here, and it's kind of a mess. It's really hard to work like this. I used to have a nice rollaway that I'd bring with me all the time when I was younger, and I was doing mechanics work. That's how I do it. You will need a full 1/4 inch drive set. You will need a set of these. They have these on Amazon. Okay, this set is pretty reasonable. As with any VW, I would get a set of these. These are hose clamp pliers. They're kind of all messed up right now, but there's a little set that looks like this in a box like this. Having one of those is absolutely a must-have. It has all different types of to take those little squeeze clamps off. And believe me, you want to put those back on. The other ones tend to leak on the VWs. So if you stick with the original stuff and you go with the squeeze clamps, it's faster once you have a set of these tools. It's very fast. There's places you cannot get to. And if you try to put a regular hose clamp on there, you're going to end up with some serious problems trying to get that clamp on. It's easier to use these, believe me. Once you get a set of these hose clamp pliers, they lock. So when you clamp it down, it holds the hose clamp in place. You can move it all around. They have this one on the cable. There's a whole bunch of them in here. They're all over the place right now. I gotta get them put away. I've been working on this for over a month. Okay, over 2 months on this car. I've had problem after problem after problem after problem. I'm ready to give up on it, really, but I'm just gonna decided, well, I'm gonna do the turbo. For some reason, if there's any other issues, it's gonna get a nice hammer bash contest or something. I don't know. I'm just gonna get really angry with it because I'm just done with it. But I have these good vice grip Irwin pliers. Really nice to have a set of those, or Nipex if you have those. Really expensive though. These are a good alternative. You will need wobbly extensions. Let's look at what they are. So this is a wobbly extension. They have these at Harbor Freight. They're pretty cheap. It really helps to get into a lot of places. Or you can have a 1/4 inch drive set and wobbly, but you don't always have a wobbly one of these, okay? This 12-point piece. So having the wobbly extensions kind of makes up for a lot of things. It really helps a lot to have those. They're cheap at Harbor Freight Tools. You will need a lot of sockets, a lot of different things. You need 6-point, 12-point. You're going to need a set of these. You're going to need there's a lot of tools to do this job. Full set of wrenches. Mine kind of got wiped out. I had a full set of super chromes. I've lost a few of them over the years. I've had that stuff for years. I just brought some of my tools out here. Like I said, this is not normally how I work. I usually have a rollaway box that I'm working out of. But I have other things going on, so I just brought all my tools over and just threw them on the counter here. This isn't even my normal sockets. I have Mac and some other ones, but these are pretty nice too. These I got a set of these. These are the Icon. I just bought an extra set. They're pretty nice, and they have the locking, like the snap-on ones. They're actually pretty good. Good sockets for the money, a lot cheaper than the set of snap-on, and they do pretty much the same damn thing. So the Icon stuff is really good from Harbor Freight if you want to get some of that. I did use this a couple times. This is a 2-foot 1/4 inch drive extension. I have a 36-inch extension for some things. Don't really need those things, but it does avoid you from busting your knuckles on a lot of things on the project. Just trying to think of anything else. I did need, of course, for the taking off the wheels, you need a 12-point. I think it's 30. I'm not sure, 24 millimeter. I saw about a set of 12 points I've had for the wheels, for the axle. Yes, for sure, you would need to take that out. You cannot get the turbo out without it. I tried to take the turbo out the top. It didn't seem like it was going to come out there. It went out the bottom, but it was still tight, and that axle needs to come out. So to get the axle nut off, that is a 12-point, I think 24. I think this was a 28. You need that big socket for that. Again, I would say this project right here, to do this turbo, I would give myself at least 10 hours. 8 to 10 hours. I mean, if you're experienced mechanic, you probably could do it in 6. You know, a guy who's really pretty fast, I could probably do it in 5 or 6 hours. Or if you've done more than one of them, I'm sure you could even speed up the time more than that. But, you know, nothing goes quick on a VW. It just takes a lot of time, because you can get to one bolt and you're like, oh, all I got to do is put on this one bolt. And that one bolt can take you like 30 minutes, you know, one bolt. So taking it apart, I would say 8 to 10 hours. Yeah, same thing. Probably longer, a little bit longer to put it back together. So it's going to take pounding your carbine down for a few days, you know, before you start. And just a couple pieces of what I would think, you know. You do what you want. Of course, do it at your own risk. And do, you know, if you break something, it's all on you, man. And if, you know, again, if you don't like what I do, don't have to do it. I'm just showing you how I do it. And you can do it however you want. It's completely your decision. I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm just showing you how I do it. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hopefully this helps you if you had to change your turbo. And man, I'm telling you, it is not fun. I would rather not do that job. Talk to you in the next one.